America's generational wealth actually comes from real estate. So if you look back into the history, you see a lot of generations generate their wealth through their growth in their property values. So buying a home in the 1920s, 1930s, all the way through, you're getting that consistent percentage gain on an annual basis, on average, annualized throughout time, and you have growth in that property value. So today I want to talk about, should you buy or should you rent your property, and what's the best option for you? On top of that, we're also going to talk about renting and buying a car. A lot of people think about, should we lease a car or should we buy a car? What's the best case scenario? What's the best option for you? I think every situation is different, so let's talk about buying versus renting a home first. We're going to cover the financial differences between buying and renting a home, because some people have that security. For example, in Asian culture, they love buying a home because they have a sense of security, and in different countries, rules to rent, regulation on rent is very different, so you can get the eviction rules are different, so you have that sense of security when you have a home and you can actually have a stable place to stay. But in the US, as a tenant, you have a pretty good regulation for you, an eviction process to protect the renters so that they're not homeless. So we're not talking about those aspects of renting versus owning. We're going to talk about the financial difference and when you should rent and when I think you should buy a home. When you see that there's an opportunity for a home market that will increase in equity, for that home's value to be increased in the next couple of years, or you believe you'll be holding onto this property for 10 years and you will sell it after 10 years or so, or 5 to 10 years that you're willing to hold for the property value to go up, yes, I think it's a good opportunity to buy a home. Second, if the same property you're getting, let's say it's a $200,000 property, if the rent and percentage of the property value is over a percentage of what you make in investment, then it's also time to buy. So let me repeat that again. It might sound a little confusing. If the property value, let's say, is $100,000 and the annual rent is $15,000 for that property, which gives you a cap rate of 15% cash on cash, meaning that you're buying the property at full $100,000, you're paying $15,000. If you don't have an investment vehicle, you don't have a project that's generating you $15,000 on $100,000, 15% in return, then you should put a cash on cash project on this, because you basically will be paying a 15% rate on return for your rent. You're saving that process minus real estate tax and so forth. So you should calculate if it's worthwhile for you in terms of what your discount rate in your life is, what type of return you're getting on your investments. Now, if you have an investment project that can give you 30 to 40% return on the same risk as a real estate project, then you should park your money in that vehicle instead of buying a home. At the end of the day, it's all about the value of cash. Where can you park your cash and what type of return you will be getting? If you're putting $100,000 down for a property, can you be making more with that $100,000, or will you be saving more by not paying for rent, minus the real estate taxes that even home ownerships have to pay? You really have to do the cost-benefit analysis in those scenarios. Buying a home is great. You will have growth in that home most of the time, and if you're willing to hold on to that in the long term, it's a great idea. Now, you also have to consider the mortgage interest. If you're putting only 2% down and your mortgage is 4 or 5%, you're basically putting a 4 to 5% on your mortgage value. So even if the home is growing at a 5% rate, you're not really making any money because you're paying in the interest on a monthly basis to mortgage. So you have to, depending on your situation, depending on the property, figure out if it's a rent situation or it's an ownership situation. On top of that, home offices that you pay for, that you lease for, actually is deductible by your business. So there's also taxation that comes into it. Should you rent a property as a business expense for a home office, or should you buy a home and then have depreciation or have mortgage interest being part of the taxation deduction? Those factors you should really consider. Now, another commonly asked question is, should you buy or rent a car? People always make fun of people that, oh yeah, your Mercedes or your car is a rental, or that Lambo is a rental. That's like the most common thing. I think there's a huge thing recently with Dan Bilzerian buying versus renting his apartment. I think, again, the key here is not whether they're buying or they own the home or they rent the home, because you can take the mortgage of a $150 million apartment. You can still take a huge loan on that at 20-80 ratio. Paying for rent is actually, it's pretty significant if you're doing a 5-year lease on a property like that. It's similar to getting down deposit to have that type of financial backing to even sign a lease like that for 5 years. So I think the key here is to understand what the best situation is. I don't think you should look down on someone that's renting versus someone that's buying. I think it's actually depends depends on the person's situation. It depends on the business situation, whether you should rent or buy. My personal take on cars, unless you're commuting on a daily basis, more than 10 miles, if you don't live in a city and your Uber cost is more than $15 per ride, yes, get a car because you have to daily commute to work. I get it. And for anyone else that lives in Manhattan, New York City, I don't think a car is a worthwhile purchase on a fiscal level, on an emotional level, because if anyone out there has lived in New York and have driven a car, you're talking about parking garage costs, insurance costs that's super high, and then the stress that you have to find parking lots when you get to a destination. I almost think that Uber is more convenient at that rate. And if you love cars, you can collect cars. That's completely not an investment or financial advice. It's just, at that point you just love it. And if you like Lambos and stuff, I think renting one is actually probably better than buying a Lambo, because that's just a huge depreciation, a huge maintenance cost. Trust me, I would know. We ran an auto club for a while. We ended up having to close it because of the risk, because of the insurance that goes with owning Lambos and Ferraris. So I would say people that actually enjoy cars, yeah, go rent a car for a day or rent a vehicle for fun, just like owning a jet. Like, you should not be owning a jet. It's a terrible investment. Now, it's for your leisure purposes, that's completely different. But as an investment saying, hey, I need to get somewhere faster, that's bullshit. Buy your first class ticket, have that comfort, enjoy the TSA pre. You don't need a private jet. It makes no sense. The only time it does make sense is if you have to go into cities that don't have major airports. So 2 things you have to consider. On a fiscal level, what's the best decision to make for your comfort, for your wallet? And if it's for leisure, then you can do whatever you want. You can pay for $1 million for a Bugatti. It doesn't matter. But today we're talking about renting versus owning. And I think it's important to know when to buy a car, when you should lease a car, when you should rent them for a day. All these factors you should consider when purchasing the car.